If you want more content from We Studios, check us out at weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com, where you can find our Simpsons podcast, worst episode ever, our commentary series Sync Points, our Reddit, our Twitter, our Facebook, all that good stuff.
And if you want to support the show and what we're doing here, all you got to do is go to amazon.wepodcast.com or click the banners on wepodcast.com. Either way, it's going to take you to Amazon.
Or tap them.
Tap
them if you're on if you're using a mobile device, not if you're looking at it through some kind of TV store window.
Right. If you're looking at it through a TV store window, you're probably some sort of Dickensian urchin, and we appreciate you listening, but you can't support the show.
Yeah, we're also not on TVs. I don't know what you're looking at.
I don't know. It would be kind of weird if we were on TV. Are we being filmed right now and we don't know about it? Is someone recording this?
I'm not.
Oh my God. All right, guys. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, guys.
60 minutes are on the clock, and straight out of We Studios, this is 90s Percentile. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack, and we're talking everything 90s and maybe also everything before and after.
And we have a guest today. He's in here in the studio. There's a weird hiss in the air that we can't tell. Maybe you guys can hear it. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. But Mike Diaz is here. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. Very
Sorry
well.
the hiss got top billing.
The hiss is the more prominent guest, I think. No offense, Mike.
I'm all about reptiles, man.
Mike, you are a filmmaker, correct? Mm-hmm. And where can people find your work on the internet?
YouTube, Vimeo, the spookedhorse.com. That's my production company.
The Spooked Horse.
Yeah, Spooked Horse videos are
spooky.
They might be spooky. They're really fucking funny. You've got, God, I don't know how many you've got. You got a bunch of different ones though.
Bunch of them.
Constantine, what is it called?
Constantine Keeps Bees.
Keeps Bees.
It's about the true origins of the small-time honey farming, urban farming.
I watched that one earlier today. It was very funny.
It's, you learn something. It's very
exactly. It's kind of a how-to video.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to get your own honey.
I had no idea that's how it was done. It's that easy, folks.
You should check it out because bees are not a 90s topic. They are more of a universal topic. So we're not going to really talk about them here. We might talk about Bee Movie.
We might. Well, that's a 2000s topic.
But we still talk about it a lot.
We'll still talk about it. That's right.
But you should check that out if you want to learn how bees make honey, or how we get the honey, I guess.
Yeah. Or go listen to the Crossfire episode, I think, is when we talked a lot about Bee Movie.
Of course, yeah.
Naturally.
Kids love their honey.
That's true.
Then you've also got some really funny Bigfoot videos.
Yeah.
But I think the one we really got to mention, because it is 90s, is Karate Tortoise.
Yes,
Tortoise.
Tortoise.
Tell us about Karate Tortoise.
Well, as a kid that grew up in the 90s, I had a penchant and an interest for shelled vigilante martial artists.
Of course, as did we all.
Yes, and what I couldn't wrap my mind around was why they would choose turtles as ninjas, because it seems like the worst animal other than maybe snails to be a martial artist. And so, you grow up with anthropomorphic characters as a kid, talking rabbits, talking mice, talking, crime-fighting turtles. So I always thought it'd be interesting to do a spin on a karate tortoise. So like a Galapagos tortoise, but more tortoise than human. Which means that he's not very good at karate at all.
Spoilers.
Watch the video.
Yeah,
it's
slight
good.
Spoilers, but I love how kind of just gross and disgusting he is. Because if you think about it, a 6-foot-tall mutant tortoise or turtle or whatever.
Tortoise man.
Yeah, and if you saw like the Ninja Turtles in real life or the Karate Tortoise, they probably wouldn't be as clean and smooth as the cartoon.
No.
They would almost if you picture the Michael Bay CGI turtles in real life, like if those actually looked real, you just wouldn't want to be in the same
You wouldn't
room.
want them to be in your.
No.
You wouldn't. Yeah.
Both I and America did not want to see them earlier.
If I was a 25-year-old beautiful TV reporter, I would not allow them to stay in my home.
No, you'd probably call animal control.
Or express weird cross-species sexual preferences at me, which is something that happens in the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles.
Is it?
The first one.
Michelangelo's obsessed with it, right?
Yeah, it's to a creepy extent.
They're gonna. I have a feeling in the new one, which hasn't or is out now, I guess.
It just came out.
It's out and it was a big failure.
Everybody hates it.
So I have a feeling they tried to course correct and have Megan Fox and Casey Jones get it on.
Right. Well, when you got Stephen Amell playing Casey Jones,
a handsome guy.
The people love him.
He's no Elias Koteas, who I think should have reprised his role. Have a 56-year-old balding Casey Jones act against Megan Fox.
Now you're cooking with gas, and everybody would have had a different reaction to it. it might actually be up for an Oscar.
The kids would have swarmed to the theater. Elias Codius is in this. I gotta see that.
Look who's talking to Elias. Is that the homeless man that Ian McKellen killed? And that pupil? Sign me up. I'm a big
Amazing.
fan.
Apparently.
No, there was the other thing about Out of the Shadows, the second Ninja Turtles movie that is bothering me. I haven't seen it yet.
We'll get to our first topic in a moment.
Yeah, of course. Fred Armisen was going to do the voice of Krang, and then last minute, like real last minute, because it was like 2 weeks ago.
It was like 2 weeks before the movie came out.
They replaced him with
Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett, who I like Brad Garrett, but Fred Armisen as Krang would have been super interesting.
Fred Armisen as Krang, it's weird.
It's weird,
and that's, I would have loved to have seen what he was going to do with that.
I want to hear the raw takes. Like, what could that could have been
Krang
like?
with put a bird on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I wonder what happened behind the scenes. That you're saying 2 weeks before.
It was very recent.
I'm guessing they
Interesting.
didn't think it was kid friendly enough. Maybe it was,
So they must have recorded.
So his
with
Krang
him
was
and
like, "Hello, kids."
I'm Krang.
a little too visceral.
Now it's more like everybody loves Shredder.
It's funny that everyone thinks of Brad Garrett as Robert from Everybody Loves Raymond. I always think of him as Lobo from Superman the Animated Series.
Yeah. All right, I always think of him as the green T-Rex from Project Geeker.
He had a wonderful voice acting career
he's
before he
very
won
good.
all those
Yeah.
Emmys for playing Robert.
Ray,
Yeah, that's good, Ray.
Shredder, Oroko, here's the keys to the Technodrome. You double park the Technodrome again. How am I supposed to get to work?
Robert, you gotta stop invading from Dimension X. Go home with Mom and Dad and General Treg.
See, now there is the next generation of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
That's
right
Turtles
there.
3.
Yeah.
Out of my parents' house.
I think that might be a whole new franchise.
moved to Long
Out of my
Island.
parents' house.
They moved to Long Island. Splinter lives next door.
Now we're on to something. That's an idea.
Like I guess Pat Oswalt was King of Queens, right?
Yeah.
Who is that? Who is like the buddy on Everybody Loves Raymond?
What's his face? Andy
Kindler?
Kindler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was he also on King of Queens?
I think he might
I don't
have been
remember.
Raymond.
Well, 'cause King of
blur
Queens was a
together.
spin-off.
They blur together, yeah.
Of Ray.
I don't think it was a spin-off, but it's the same universe.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a spinoff.
Spin-off, I feel like would have to be, there would have to have been a character on Everybody Loves Raymond that got his own show. Like
I thought he was a character.
Was he? I don't know.
I think he was.
I never actually watched the show.
I
I've
thought he
only
was,
seen
yeah.
a few episodes of
I've-
both
yeah.
series.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I
It's
watched,
been like 3 weeks for me.
Yeah, I was watching it just before I came, but it just washes over me.
It's on right now, but I'm like only half paying attention
right.
to it.
It's actually on right now. We've got it muted in the background.
Very difficult to follow without the sound. Is Leia Remini his wife?
I don't know.
Are
We're
they
talking about King of
sisters?
Queens. I was talking about Raymond. They're both on.
They're both on simultaneously.
So was Temporarily Yours with Debbie Mazar.
It's Monday night on CBS.
We got that new Dell 4-monitor set up. We're playing 90s CBS sitcoms. What's the fourth one? Ink? With Mary Steenburgen and Ted Danson? I
Absolutely.
don't know why I'm asking you. It's right there.
It
We all
is.
see it.
It's right there with white-haired Ted Danson. What a silver fox.
Was he white-haired by then?
Yes, he was. He was white-haired
His whole-
the
yeah.
next season after Cheers. He must have dyed his hair.
Oh,
Because,
yeah. Well, I think it's a wig, right?
In Cheers?
Somebody
Did he wear a
somebody
wig?
told me he's bald. But,
Really?
Really?
But Becker, he didn't have white hair.
Uh,
He didn't have white hair in Becker.
Was Becker after Ink? It might have been
Becker
after
was
Ink.
way after, yeah. Because Becker
okay.
actually lasted for like 3-4 seasons.
Yeah. All right. So
This is
our topic
this is
today is
Beckercast.
Becker.
Becker.
Mike, was your topic Becker?
No.
I don't even know if Becker is a 90s topic. I feel like it was like 2003.
No.
I forgot it
Oh, no,
existed.
it wasn't. Because it was on when we were in high school.
It was like
Yeah.
late 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so our first topic is Becker.
What a curmudgeon.
Becker, why you're such a grouch?
The biggest thing I took away from Becker was that his doctor's assistant, the young lady, I always remembered her as the crazy person from the miniseries The Stand on ABC.
Yes.
Shawnee Smith, I want to say. Shawnee something. But I used to always, growing up, think that was Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I rewatched The Stand in high school. I was like, that's not Elaine. That's the girl from
No,
Becker.
that's Mrs. Becker.
Not Mrs. Becker, but
I thought he was married to all the female characters on the
I
show.
think that's what the show is
Wasn't
about,
it? It
right?
was like
it was
Big
like
Love,
Dr.
right?
T and the Women. But,
Yeah.
Dr. T.
Dr. Becker and the Big Love. We combined several things into one.
This is just...
This is
God,
great
great
$1
episode.
ideas here.
All right.
Thanks for coming, Mike.
So that was all Mike's introduction.
So check out Karate Tortoise is basically what we're trying to say.
Yes.
Spooked Horse on YouTube and Vimeo.
YouTube, Vimeo, it's everywhere.
Excellent. Okay, Mike, so as our guest, you may not know this, but you have the right to choose our first topic, or you can go right into our Wheel of Death random topic generator and see what we got. We got 500 plus topics in there, and if listeners want to submit topics, go to our website. It's currently 90spercentile.wordpress.com.
And then, but one of the 500
is
death.
It's death.
We will.
And if death comes up,
We have to kill ourselves. You guys go first. I'll go last.
And then you'll,
okay.
And I'll finish watching
So you
Becker.
The guest always goes first.
I'll finish watching Ink.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, I left my wallet on the train, actually. I need to
Get
dip.
out of here.
You gotta get out of
I'll
here.
be back in 10 minutes.
So, Mike, do you have a topic that you want to do?
I do.
All right, so we will forego the Wheel of Death for the moment.
yes.
Unless their topic is
Thank
death.
God.
I suppose a
No,
guest
no,
could
no.
pick death.
I guess,
No,
some people
I
might.
don't like that rule.
Okay, no, okay, so that won't be a rule. Death has to come up
I
randomly.
don't want to put my life in our guest's head, especially after you put the hiss over him.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, Mike, so what is your topic?
Seinfeld.
Wow, the Becker of
Well, we're talking about
stand-up.
TV, Julia
The much better
Louis-Dreyfus.
version of Becker.
Yeah.
Kind of.
well, that's subjective.
Yeah.
Actually, Jerry Seinfeld just did an AMA as of
did.
this recording yesterday.
Yes, I was just reading it. Before.
I scanned it briefly. He did bring up B movie.
Well, because people asked him about B-movie repeatedly, and he was like, it's so nice to hear people like B-movie.
If people haven't
good.
caught our Crossfire episode where we talked
Yeah.
in depth about B movie, and I don't think Jerry quite realizes. He's like, yeah, the internet loves B movie. I don't think he realizes
Right.
it in the way that they do. Apparently, it's
become this weird thing with teens where, like, B-movie is the high point of pointlessness. And
Really?
so, like, teens...
they like it because
This is like a
it's
phenomenon.
random.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
this was a
yeah.
thing.
I didn't know
really?
about this. It's really weird. Like, you can buy a shirt with the entire script of B-movie on it.
What?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what?
How did the...
But you're only supposed
I don't
to.
know.
You're
I-
only
I
supposed
have
to
no
like
answers
it.
to
It's
you.
the
Yeah.
singularity coming up with something weird again.
Yeah, it's very, very weird.
But
That's
if
the
you
internet for you.
genuinely like it as a movie, then you're an old. You
I don't really-
you're
so it
only
has
to be
you're supposed to
ironic liking it. Okay,
it's
gotcha.
Right.
There's a touch of
Is that what they call us? An old?
olds. Yeah,
I don't like that.
you're an old. Or
Really?
you're- Yeah,
don't care
that's,
for
that's what
that.
the kids say. Apparently, I just found this out. Your Instagram, if it has more than 25 photos on it, you're an old.
You're an old?
Because you're supposed to constantly delete your photos and curate the 25 images you want to represent yourself. And
That's so stupid.
Well,
It
here's
just
the thing.
stores all my
Well,
pictures.
here's what teenagers don't realize, because I was like, you know what? I've been through that kind of stuff with like LiveJournal, whatever was popular when I was that young, and it's like,
Right.
old people don't get it. They're doing it wrong. Thing is, I don't have fucking time to go through my Instagram
Yeah, of
and
course
delete shit.
not.
They don't realize it, and they're gonna have a rude awakening in about 5 years. And they're like, oh, I gotta delete my Instagram. Oh wait, I have a job and rent to pay. These
Yeah.
fucking.
Or there's
kids.
going to be an Instagram that's like Snapchat where you can't keep anything.
Yeah.
It's there for 10 seconds.
exactly with their B movies and their Snapchats.
They're like, what's Seinfeld? Why am I listening to this podcast of olds?
So, do you think kids like Seinfeld? Do you think Seinfeld holds up for people who never grew up with it, where it's a period show at this point?
Actually, my girlfriend, who's an actor, was doing some research the other day and watched an episode of Seinfeld for the first time. And she loves loves Friends.
Is she
She'd
up
never
for a
seen
part of a
How
Jewish
weird.
comedian, stand-up comedian?
Yeah, exactly. She's going to play Seinfeld in an off-Broadway production.
I would see that.
I would totally.
Yeah, and she's an Asian girl in her 20s playing Jerry Seinfeld at the height of his
sounds amazing.
career. Actually, there's another
Yeah.
$1 million
I think
idea.
we've got something
Definitely.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
Kids will like it, ironically.
She didn't like it, and I was listening. I haven't heard.
She
I mean,
didn't
I grew
like
up
it.
watching it because my dad loved it.
Sure.
And then we watched it all the way through, and then we would watch the reruns all the way through.
Yeah.
And and I was listening to it, and it just sounds a little antiquated. And
Really?
she just didn't get it. She was just like, it just seems like it's pointless. And I was like, case in
Man.
point.
Huh.
I wonder if you stick
so
with
weird.
it. Like, that's kind of crazy to say, because if you don't like something, why would you want to watch it for 20 hours? But I wonder if she took the DVDs and watched it for like a season, if suddenly something would click, or if maybe it is like a nostalgic thing. I mean, I would say objectively it's a great show.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I would agree.
maybe without the nostalgia and growing up with it and appreciating it for its time, maybe there's a ceiling to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Object.
By the way, Jack just pointed out watching it on DVDs. What an old.
What an old.
Oh, let me put in my digital video disc. I stream it on Hulu. Ever heard of it?
I have a big, what's it called? The phonogram? Or what's it?
Yeah.
Phonograph.
Phonogram.
What is a
Phonogram.
phonogram?
No,
Phonogram.
It's not phonogram.
Candygram?
I watch Seinfeld through Candygram. It's very expensive. Basically, I just call a Candygram service and I give them the entire script of an episode and then have them come by.
Each Candygram deliverer is a different character.
Exactly. I get like 42 of them.
It's very expensive, and you have diabetes now. But
Diabetes.
I love that. Diabetes.
Yeah.
Diabetes.
I did that on purpose.
Wilford Brimley played the Postmaster General on Seinfeld.
Oh, you're right.
Seinfeld
What a
had
tie-in.
a lot of guest stars.
Oh yeah.
Well, I want to go back up. Let's talk about the guest stars in a second, but I want to talk about whether it's dated or not.
They don't have iPhones.
I feel like kids today aren't going to sit down and be like, "Let me watch Seinfeld," even though Seinfeld is on all the
Is
time.
it still on syndication?
Yeah,
It's gotta be,
TV,
right?
yes, it's on
Kids don't
constantly.
watch syndication.
Kids
though.
don't watch TV.
Kids
period.
don't watch TV.
They watch
No.
YouTube.
Yeah.
They watch
Yeah.
bags blowing in the wind.
Right.
If American Beauty has taught me anything.
as long as
Beauty
it's
was
10
17.
seconds long and deletes itself after the first play.
That's right. So I don't think they're going to watch it. And a lot of the plots in Seinfeld are completely solved by smartphones. Like, hey, where are you?
That's true.
Like the movie.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
theater are you in?
Yep.
Where
a
did
lot
I park
of
the
Jerry's
car?
dating mishaps.
Yeah.
Well, Annie, my girlfriend, brought up a good point. She said she felt like watching. She just watched the pilot, which is not really
okay.
giving it a fair shot.
I was going to ask what
Yeah.
episode
Yeah.
she watched.
Which
okay.
it's the pilot, of course. It's not going to be.
nothing
not,
like
you know.
not the best episode.
But she said that she could tell that it was like so many sitcoms that she enjoys, very late '90s and then aughts.
Right.
Are so derived from Seinfeld, and she could tell
Yes.
by watching the pilot that he really sort of broke the mold for that music.
Certainly did. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was groundbreaking in a way that's almost unheard of. I mean, I would say
Yeah.
like at the same time, Simpsons and Larry Sanders Show, but Seinfeld was probably the most influential of those three. Even though all three you could argue they were equally groundbreaking. Seinfeld, like you said,
Yeah.
everybody else copied Seinfeld. You have animated shows that copied Simpsons, and not much copied Larry Sanders. Unfortunately, they should have. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because Seinfeld kind of really started that whole trend of find a comedian in the club, because the 80s were like a huge stand-up comedy boom. Like, and then just give them a sitcom like Drew Carey,
that was the
Ellen.
first. No, was it?
I don't know if it probably wasn't the first. I mean, Bill Cosby to an
yeah,
extent
yeah,
was that, and many other things. But but Jerry Seinfeld definitely, his success kicked off in the mid '90s. There were a lot of those shows. It's I'm a comedian and this is my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Including Louis C.K. He had a show, I think, in that era, didn't he?
He had Lucky
it was
Louie
that was a
on
little
HBO.
later.
That was later. Oh, okay.
That
He
was
was-
like 2000, I think.
But it's weird
okay.
you said Louis C.K. because I was about to mention Louis Anderson.
Louis Anderson too.
He
Yeah.
had one that came out where.
Well, he had Life with Louie, which was
Yeah, that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
much
I
different, but
was not very good.
Really?
you know, it
remember
wasn't
liking
very
it.
good, and I
Yeah.
watched it.
I
like,
did too.
all the time.
Oh yeah, I watched it all. I was dedicated. I hated every minute of it.
Yeah.
I remember liking
Fifth
the
grade.
dad, but I don't remember any specifics about
And the
it.
dad used to talk like this about the army. That's
hear-
all I
I
remember.
forgot.
about
I
the
just like you
show.
just took me back to 1994, and I'm like watching it. And
Yeah.
like I don't get this, but
But it's on.
It's
and
TV.
That's
Yeah.
what I watch. I watch what's on television.
and I remember he would get really sappy.
Yeah.
And sort of try to, and I think that's why I didn't like it, because he'd be like, and
that's-
here's the lesson.
Yeah.
I just remember in one episode he was like, "You're calling me a fat man, but I am just a man who happens to be fat."
Right.
And I was like,
like-
"This is a really bad show.
what an apex of comedy.
Bring that dad back on."
I hate.
And also, he was the way that Louis the Child was animated was very ugly.
Oh yeah,
Like he was just like
hideous. Yeah,
it looked like Louis Anderson.
yeah.
It looked worse than Louis Anderson.
Like an adult Louis
you know,
Anderson
on a kid's
on
body.
a kid's
Yeah, I guess
on a
that's the
cartoon
problem.
kid's body, which was
it's a problem. I preferred Bobby's World, but
yeah. I was just thinking of that. Yeah,
Howie
Great
Mandel,
show.
Howie
also
Mandel at
80s.
his yep.
you know what? You're right. That was
Sitcom.
another
Yeah,
show
I mean,
that spun out of his act too. I think.
Yep.
Did he do the Bobby voice on stage? That
I don't know if he
would've
did
been weird.
the Bobby voice, but I think he talked about his childhood, and he did like the voice of Bobby. He did the voice of the father.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Maybe
it
he
gave him
was
the
Uncle Ted.
creeps whenever Bobby would, at the beginning, the intro, he would like ride through the puddles and,
Yeah,
and
right.
dance in the mud. I wonder if he like got creeped out by
Probably.
I would love
the germ thing.
I would
Noted
love if
germaphobe.
because I can't do this. I'm not an animator and I don't have the time. But I would love if some animator went back and took episodes of Bobby's World and reanimated the Howie Mandel father character with the bald soul patch Howie Mandel. You kept the lines, you keep everything. You just
Yeah.
have like bald soul patch, like Deal or No Deal. America's Got Talent level Howie Mandel.
That'd be pretty great.
I feel like that would just
Listeners, get on it.
Make
Some
me
of you are
very
out
Put it
there.
out there in the ether. Somebody's got to do it.
Some of you know something.
Yeah, I'm giving you that idea. If you make $1 billion from it somehow, Mark
We
Zuckerberg
get a
buys
small
you for
cut.
some reason.
Just like the Oculus.
Yeah,
He's like, this is great. I used to love Bobby's World. $1 billion.
And now all your Facebook apps are like tied into it.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Seinfeld.
I have a question. You said that your girlfriend watched the pilot. So here's
That's
my question.
that's not the way to do it.
That's not a good entry episode. What do you guys think is a good first episode of Seinfeld for someone who's never seen the show?
I went through this because I had a friend who was our age and never watched it, and I was like, "Oh my god, what do I do?" And I was like, "I guess I'll give you season 4 DVD set because that's like considered where the show really took off." But to
That's
me,
probably the best season
To me,
in my
even
mind.
4 feels like old Seinfeld. Like to me, that feels like they're not quite there yet. It's not firing all. So to me, season 5 like is where it's a little bit like the production value is a little bit higher, and they got the big
Really?
New York City street set,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit wackier. To me, that's like true Seinfeld. Even though a lot of people would argue season 4 is true Seinfeld.
I would say that season 4 is true Seinfeld. That's the whole season with an arc about the making of the show Jerry. So it's got very meta. It's the one with the contest. You got crazy Joe Davola.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff, but it's also kind of grounded in this
And it
real
is.
show
I'm
about
not
nothing.
arguing it isn't, but for me, the most real of real, the most Seinfeldist of Seinfeld seasons would be when when George works for the Yankees.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally. I
Like season
totally
5, 6,
get that.
7, 8.
Calzone
Or 5, 6,
episode.
7, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but that's already it's kind of like the same as The Simpsons, where The Simpsons season 5, 6, 7, 8 are considered his best seasons, and that's already a wacky show where Homer goes to space. Whereas season 3 and season 4, which
Season 3, you just have Michael Jackson coming to town.
Yeah,
and, you
other
know.
people could argue that that was The Simpsons at its purest. But
Right,
to
right,
me, and I love season 3, season 4, and I love season 3 and season 4. My favorite episodes of Seinfeld are season 3. My favorite episode's the parking garage episode.
That's a good one.
yeah.
Damn good one.
That's season 3. But I don't know. For some reason, when I picture Seinfeld, I picture George in the Yankees, season 5, 6, 7.
What's interesting is
Nobody
that
claps when people clap when Kramer comes in,
and they hoot and holler.
That
like,
feels feels old to me. That feels
Yeah.
like this is an old one.
Right. It's funny that all of these things that you're bringing up, and I want to know, Mike, what your entry episode is. So you think about it while I tell this to Jack. One of my favorite Seinfeld episodes is the oh god, I'm totally blanking on the name of it. It's the one where the nap, where George naps under his desk,
yeah.
and he builds like a little fort, and then
That was
he has
always
Jerry
so
call it a
silly,
bomb
and
threat.
now it's like
It's such a silly, over the top,
But now
ridiculous
it's like,
episode.
oh no, I want to nap under my desk. I would totally do that.
Oh, absolutely, I want to do
like
it.
now it's a real grounded thing.
But that's exactly what you're talking about. This like over the top,
Yeah.
like George works for the Yankees. George Steinbrenner's the one who finds him under the
That
desk.
is one of the best episodes because that's the one
It's
where
just so
Jerry
funny.
calls in the bomb threat.
Yeah.
and, Fitted hat day.
And I want the real hats like the players wear.
I'm not doing it. Can I at least get a fitted hat? What's your size? 7 5/8. 7 5/8. Why are you yelling? It's this place. It makes me very uncomfortable.
That's good.
That is such a good episode.
Oh, no,
we could quote Seinfeld episodes for
and
the rest of this
I
podcast.
relate to George Costanza, the character, on such a deep level. His inner rage at the world just resonates with me in a scary,
minor
scary
inconveniences.
Way. Yeah, I wouldn't
Minor
even say
and
minor
major.
inconvenience. Yeah, I would say it's just life beating him down.
Yeah, that's true.
Mike, before we ask your entry episode, let's ask the hiss.
Yeah. Let's get the hiss.
The
in here.
hiss. I don't remember that episode.
No, Mike. What episode? You could also do a dance and say your favorite episode, or maybe it's the both. What episode would you show somebody? I guess you showed Annie the pilot.
Well, she picked it.
right.
I heard
Okay.
her. I was like, "Are you actually watching?" Because I've been saying for
Yeah.
years that she needs to
Yeah,
watch
you
it.
got to watch it.
I would show her
there's-
the maid.
No,
That's not an entry level, but
Yeah.
but,
Oh, I see.
but she needs like a shot of adrenaline in the chest, like Uma Thurman. You got to rescue her Seinfeld love.
Right.
I would show her the third to last episode of the series.
The last
Maid.
like regular episode of the show.
That's my favorite episode.
I don't even remember what happened. In
It's
which
got
one was
4 plots that intersect in an amazing way. It's got Elaine gets a different area code. It was right when they were
Right.
talk about
Yeah.
dated.
Number,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're splitting area codes. Kramer is dating a girl downtown, which he considers a long distance relationship.
Right.
Jerry has a maid that he's sleeping with, so now it's almost like he's paying her for sex.
Yep.
And George wants a nickname at work, and he tries to get T-Bone, but he gets Coco the monkey.
Coco
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Zero, zero.
It's ooh.
As in ooh ooh ah ah. Look at that, George really giving it to T-Bone. But anyway,
That was a great episode.
Pretending that she didn't get to pick and she didn't need the stim shot to the chest.
Oh man, I love
It's a very tough question.
I too love George's neurosis.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I love the episode where he, I think it's when he was working for the Yankees, but the guy says the snide thing, and he's like,
oh, Jerk Store? Is this that one?
the jerk store where
Yeah.
he spends.
I think it's The Comeback. I want to say
the
season
comeback.
7.
Yeah. Man, you guys are good. Holy crap.
If there's one 90s show I know almost as well as The Simpsons, it's Seinfeld.
I thought I knew it well, but you guys know season by season.
and again, I did watch it on Must See TV on NBC at like 9 o'clock at night. But again, that like The Simpsons, that was a show that I know so well because of it was on before dinner or after dinner.
right.
And I watched it literally twice a day, every day for 10, 15 years.
When I was going to sleep as a young boy and probably all throughout high
Your
school,
parents would
my parents would
hold you
sing
in
me
their
to sleep
arms.
with Seinfeld.
They'd give you Seinfeld candy grams to go to sleep.
That's exactly right. The sugar, it never made me sleep. I don't know what they were thinking.
That's why you have diabetes.
That's exactly right. No, I used to watch, like, to go to sleep. I always had the TV on and, would fall asleep to the TV. And if I wasn't watching a Simpsons videotape where I'd recorded episodes onto a tape, I was always watching Seinfeld was on at 11, Frasier was on at 11:30. Oh, yeah, and I'd watch the both of them, and then I'd go to sleep.
I would get straight up depressed. I don't think I'm exaggerating. Depressed when I couldn't sleep on like a Sunday night and there was no syndication. It was like you'd get the news and then there would be like a sports extra.
I know exactly what you mean.
And then there was nothing. It was like infomercials immediately at like 12.
Yeah.
And I was just
nothing more depressing than the infomercials.
And kids will never understand this because there was nothing to do.
No.
There was no internet.
No,
You couldn't read because it was nighttime. You're in bed.
It was the void.
It was the
No
void.
Kindles, no Netflix, I
No
didn't have any of that
stimulation
stuff.
whatsoever.
No B movie.
No
Unless
B-movie.
it's like whenever there was a free cable weekend and you get the squiggly
That was heaven.
showtime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
between-
right.
yeah.
And you're like trying to find porn, but
Yep.
it never
Then you
worked.
get, is that a boob?
Is that
Is that
a
a
nipple?
nipple? Is it
Yeah.
a man's? I don't care. I'm already too far down this rabbit hole. Woo!
Yeah, man, infomercial days. Kids are never gonna know that.
No.
Yeah,
They should go through like a '90s
We should
camp
rename
and have
this
to
show. These kids today.
These kids,
Grumpy young
the
men.
olds.
Yeah, grumpy young men. It's not bad.
The olds, yeah, we should be the olds. We can even have our own car, the oldsmobile.
Oh boy,
Huh?
I prefer to have a
Huh?
B-mobile. Well, B-movie. I'm just like crossing references in my head. You guys get it.
And you talk about how you love George's neuroses. It must have killed you that in the pilot, Jason Alexander, I've said it before on either this podcast, the other podcast, his portrayal of George Costanza is one of the greatest acting roles ever.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
realizes
Fantastic.
how completely different the two are. Anyway, he read him in the script, and he played him like Woody Allen. He
Yep.
thought, he's like, oh, this guy's neurotic. Let me play him like Woody Allen. And the first season, but especially the pilot, he's basically doing a Woody Allen impression.
Yep.
And then he said, as he was filming season 1, he realized Larry David, who was behind the scenes, the character was based on Larry David, and that's when he turned it into an impression of Larry David, and that became the George we all know. If you watch Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm, that has a lot
And I
more
do.
in common with George Costanza
yeah.
than Woody Allen.
Oh, for sure.
But if she was watching the pilot, that's straight
It
up
was
just
all
Woody
wrong.
Allen.
Yeah.
And then in weird turn of events, Larry David played the Woody Allen analog in the movie Whatever Works.
It's just what's that snake that eats the Ouroboros?
Ouroboros.
Yeah.
And that movie wasn't very good because
Ouroboros?
I don't really like Woody Allen.
Whatever Works.
Yeah. But that's a whole other podcast that we can get to at a later date.
I was talking to a good friend of mine who we probably mentioned on the show before, Frank Pasquini, who is also a huge Seinfeld fan, but he's also a big Woody Allen fan, and he put it really well today, or yesterday. We were talking about directors we just absolutely love. We were talking about Scorsese, and the other guy that brought it up was talking about Brian De Palma. And
Okay.
Frank said, yeah, Woody Allen is like that for me. Like, no matter, whatever movie comes out, even if it's just one of his, he just pooped it out and it's like, here's another movie like that.
Yeah.
He'll just it's just,
wow.
and I'm the same way with Woody Allen, whatever works with Larry David. Okay movie, nothing, but I can watch it over and over and over.
Yeah, I'm not into Woody Allen. I'm not a Woody Allen guy.
I used to be. I used to think that I was like a dedicated Woody Allen fan.
Sure.
But man, the last couple of movies, I've just
I haven't seen the
Hate it.
last few.
I've seen most of his big movies, and I'm just not into them. I kind of liked Midnight in Paris
I like that a lot.
because I
yeah.
like time travel. And
Midnight.
And I like
yeah.
Owen Wilson, man.
But then
That
what was
more
the
Kermit the Frog. Never
what
mind.
was the Rome one with
I didn't watch that one
With Josh Brolin,
yeah.
with Thanos.
not so good.
There's no Infinity Gems here in Rome. What am I doing here?
I thought the Pope had the Soul Stone. I say. Can't wait for Avengers 3.
Can't wait.
But you know what? Making a movie every year, every 2 years, if you can do that. You know,
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
said,
no,
he's
more-
like, you just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks.
I'm
and
sure.
More
go.
power to it.
Whatever
You know,
works. Am I
and-
right? Full circle
Dun,
again.
dun.
Ouroboros.
I remember I saw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in the theater in Manhattan, which is one of my favorite movies, and they showed a trailer for Match Point. And it looked like this drama thriller. It's got Scarlett Johansson. It's got Matthew Good. It looks great, and it's like an action thriller trailer. You know, it's getting your emotions going, and then it goes Match Point, and then it fades to black, and then it fades in a film by Woody Allen, and then there was an audible gasp in the movie because this was his
Really?
first.
Yeah.
One of those European thriller type movies. He hadn't done anything like his
Is
movie.
Match Point
like
I've never
Small
seen
Time
Match Point.
Crooks was right
Brilliant.
It's a thriller?
It's
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
it's a
know
murder
That's
thriller.
genius.
Yeah,
I
it's-
thought it
Scarlett
was-
Johansson and who else? It was a Jude, not Jude
No,
Law. No,
You said it was Matthew Good.
Matthew Good's in it,
Yeah.
but he's not the.
Oh.
Maybe he is the guy.
I
There's
thought
a
this
bigger
movie
guy.
was
Yeah.
like a romantic comedy.
No.
We're like, oh, we're playing tennis. I think I'm thinking of Wimbledon.
No, he followed.
Yeah, I think you're
with
thinking
Paul
of it.
Bettany.
Yeah,
Scarlett Johansson became his muse for a few years. After
Right,
that,
I
and
remember
he
that.
He followed that up with Scoop, which was a comedy about magicians. I'll never forget Metro, which is a daily free paper in New York. The movie review said Scoop is poop, and I was like, that is my favorite journalist of all
That's
time.
pretty great. I had no idea Scoop was about magic either. He just made another movie about magic, didn't he? Magic in the Moonlight? I think it was about magic.
Oh, really?
With Colin Firth and Emma Stone, I believe.
I think he did Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban.
He
too,
did.
right?
He did.
Gary Oldman's just like I just don't know what my penis. I can't get it hard.
And Woody Allen put himself in as a Dementor, just being like, I'm going to take your soul a little bit. Sorry, you're in Azkaban, and it's part of the deal.
I don't know the movies that well. What do you say when you
Expecto
you,
Patronum?
You get the joke.
You expect a Patronum, but I don't get one. Anyway,
Expect a Patronum. I barely expect a. I don't know. I got nothing. I'm trying
you
to-
started strong.
I'm
You
trying to
didn't finish
multitask here. I'm trying to look up who.
I know you are.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
who it
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah. What a mess. that guy
Mr.
is.
Tudor, right? Was he the
Oh,
Tudor
that's
guy?
what I was gonna.
Yep.
They're going way back about Fred Armisen. Being Fred Armisen was I wanted him to be Krang.
Yeah.
It totally reminded me of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'm a huge fan of those books growing up. Brian Cox, who was in Match Point, he was the voice of Aslan, and I thought that was really cool. And then at the last second, they replaced him with Liam Neeson.
Right.
And it's just
I didn't know
Liam
Brian
Neeson.
Cox was
And it's the
in it.
same thing with Brad Garrett. It's like Liam Neeson's he's going to do a great job, but I know exactly what he's going to sound like Aslan. I want to see Brian Cox do Aslan.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
what
love
that's
Brian
going to
Cox.
be. Yeah.
He's an intense guy. I was sitting at a coffee shop in my neighborhood working on some stuff, and he like blew in like a hurricane.
Really?
And he sat down and he's like telling this woman to get back into acting, and then he was like, "It's time to go." He was there for 5 minutes.
Holy
and he's
shit.
out.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, "What are you doing here?"
He was like, we gotta go find
Yeah.
Wolverine. I gotta put on his claws.
You were always an animal.
Was he ever in Seinfeld?
claws. Was he ever on Seinfeld? I don't think he was. Brian
No,
Cox.
but the bookman, the librarian cop,
right.
was
That
played
was
by
what's his name?
from Magnolia, all the Paul Thomas Anderson
Paul,
movies.
Phil Paul Bookman. That's not it.
That's a great episode too.
Yes,
That is it, and that's a season 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah,
Hanging
it
out
might
with your
be
good
two.
time buddies, drawing peepees and wee
Let me tell
wees.
you something.
He's so good in it.
Now talk about absurdity. That episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's just
What the
that's
fuck
just
is his
funny,
name?
is that
Because
episode.
I just saw he's in a crazy TV show right now, or he was a few months ago.
He's a 3-name guy, I believe. We're looking it up, so we'll have it in a second.
Anyway, he's in the sitcom where he plays he gets killed and then he's
Philip Baker Hall.
Philip
That's it.
Baker Hall. And then they resurrect him and put him in the body of like a 30-year-old like very athletic man.
Wait, I missed the
This-
beginning.
this
This is a
is-
show that's on right now?
I don't know. I kept seeing I was streaming something on Hulu, and you know how they make you watch the exact same ad over and over and
Right,
over.
right, right.
So I kept watching this ad where Philip Baker Hall dies.
It's not working, apparently, because you don't even know what show this
why,
is.
I don't know why they do that. It just you zone out. But
Yeah.
and it's just such a cool idea of like a 90-year-old guy who's suddenly like, because it's not even that he's a 90-year-old guy, because vampires, immortals, whatever, they're very old. I'm picturing Philip Baker Hall in the body of a 30-year-old, and it's just such a really cool concept.
So is Philip Baker Hall just in the first episode?
Basically, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought
he's like John Goodman in that
Fallen?
that other show where he played a guy
Oh.
who died and woke up in another younger body.
I thought it was going to be a situation where it's like the DC character Firestorm, where it's like one person, but there's another person who's like a voice, and he sees him as a disembodied head because they share the same body.
No, it's not like that.
I would like to watch that show.
I think that was a Seinfeld plot.
I think it was,
All
too.
right, so Philip Baker Hall. What other big guest stars? This is also
Bryan
the
Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
As the
Watley.
dentist,
Tim Watley.
Anti-dentite.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He
Who
was
was
great.
also Robert Wagner and I forget who the
Robert
mother
Wagner was his father. I don't remember who the mother was.
DDS, you anti-dentite bastard.
If this wasn't my son's wedding, I'd punch you in your teeth. Yeah. Oh, he's great.
And you also had people who weren't famous yet. Anna Gasteyer was in an episode.
Like Michael Richards. Actually, Michael Richards was Stanley Spadowski from UHF before he was Kramer.
There you go. And
So that's Weird Al's movie from 1989.
and he was on Fridays with Larry David.
Yes, he was.
Norm Macdonald played him in
Man in the Moon.
Man on the Moon, the
Yeah.
movie about Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of big. Also, fuck guest stars. Let's talk about. We don't have time. Let's talk about the cast. Besides Jason Alexander, obviously brilliant.
Yeah.
Michael Richards obviously got all the buzz for being Kramer. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was fucking brilliant.
Absolutely.
She might be
Brilliant.
the star.
I feel like the world kind of collectively realized how great she was
Yeah.
a few years after Seinfeld
Yeah.
was
I
over.
can't tell if it was the world that did it or I was maybe because when I was a kid I didn't appreciate her, and then when I was older I was like, oh my
Right.
god, this performance is brilliant. How
Yeah,
many she
she's
must have won
phenomenal.
Emmys, right?
She
yeah.
must have.
I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
they
yeah.
all won Emmys except for George or
I'm
something
pretty sure
ridiculous
she has.
like that.
She certainly won it now for Veep, I think, right?
Which I hear is incredible.
Yeah, I
I-
haven't
Yeah, I
watched
haven't
Veep,
seen it either.
But it's been on my list for a long time. But yeah, she's phenomenal, and she was the one that broke the Seinfeld curse. Because once the series ended, all of them tried to have new shows, except for Jerry. He just laughed at his pile of money and said, I'm going to write B-movie. But all of them tried to have sitcoms, and I watched all of them.
Yeah, there was Listen Up where George,
Okay, maybe I didn't watch that one.
Jason Alexander played Tony Heidecker from Pardon the Interruption. They made a sitcom about his life, and Malcolm Jamal Warner played like the Michael Wilbon character.
Wow, I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah, it
yeah.
didn't last very long.
I remember Bob Patterson, which was Jason Alexander was like a Tony Robbins type guru, self-help guy. And what's his name? Was his friend on it? Old comedian.
Philip
I can't remember
Baker
his name.
Hall.
Yep, it was Phil Baker Hall. And then Michael Richards had the Michael Richards Show, which everyone thought was going to be the big hit,
Yep.
where he played, I think he was like a private eye.
was a private
and
eye.
Tim Meadows was his friend. And
It
it was
was another
really
private eye.
not good and
He was
weird.
basically playing Kramer as a private eye.
Yeah, America wasn't into that.
Nope.
No.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
It's
coming
tough.
off the
Well-
world's greatest show. Whatever you do is
It's gonna. Yeah. I wonder how that feels to come out of that. You're kind of on top of the world, and then you're also kind of like, well,
And you're
what's
peaked.
What's
next?
That's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I was watching the Super Bowl in February, and I don't know if this has anything to do with. This was probably the first Super Bowl I ever watched really high. but
Hypothetically, Jack.
hypothetically, and I was watching it, and Peyton Manning won, and we didn't know this was going to be his last season, but it was highly suspected.
Yeah.
And the announcers were just like the color commentator and the announcer. They were just like, Peyton Manning's like he just won. He's out on the field. He's like, Peyton Manning just won. He's out there. It's kind of crazy to think this is his final play of his season, final play of a legendary career. And it's like, man, they're getting very existential
Yeah.
for the Super Bowl. It's like, what's next? It's like, it's all downhill from here. He's peaked.
Someone pulls out a gun
Yeah.
and shoots Peyton Manning.
Here
We
comes-
made sure it was your
put
last
him out
play.
of his misery?
He's looking at the cheerleaders, young enough to be his daughter. And just where does it go?
He's
It's
wondering where that first gray hair is going.
like, exactly. Can you throw perfect spirals in heaven? Like, it was probably because I was high. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
that.
probably. I think Peyton Manning's doing okay for himself.
But yeah, no, it is crazy to think when you do something that larger than life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What next?
Yeah, and I mean Jerry kind of, he kind of didn't need to do anything.
He
Yeah.
did. He
And
played
he did
Because at
for
a
a
certain
while.
point, you're laughing on your giant mountain of money.
Exactly.
and-
No,
He
he
bought a
played
bunch
it
of
very
cars.
smart because he waited
broke up a
like
marriage.
10 years. He disappeared from the limelight so
Yeah.
that by the time he did come back, he came back with like the 1-2-3 punch of. He did a great appearance on 30 Rock. He did B Movie,
Right.
and then a few years later, he did Comedians and
I
Cars.
love
Yeah.
that B movie is one of your punches that he came back with.
But those were the three big things. Oh, and he did
Right.
Marriage Ref, which kind of bombed, which did bomb.
Well, no, the Marriage Ref was actually fairly successful. It was critically reviled, but
Oh.
it was
So why'd they
a
stop?
fairly large hit for NBC at the time. Why did they stop? I have no idea.
Well, anyway, but by waiting 10 years, we weren't really comparing that to Seinfeld anymore. We were just like, oh, this is old, short-haired Seinfeld doing this. This is it. Whereas Michael Richards doing the Michael Richards show right after, it was basically like, that's Kramer. That's Kramer doing something else.
Exactly.
Whereas if he had waited 10 years... even like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she did have success, but it was a few years later. She had that real-time sitcom.
Watching Ellie.
That didn't do
Steve
well.
Carell.
And then, but the one that came out of The New Adventures of Olga Steen,
right?
That was like
that
a
was
good
a few
5-6
seasons,
years later. And then Veep is completely different. And, and it's not the same Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It's it's an older, more mature Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah,
I think there's something to be said about just like disappearing for 10 years.
Yeah.
Which maybe you can't do if you don't. I mean, she. I'm sure they were all rich. Well, she's a billionaire.
Well,
she comes from
that's
she
right.
comes from a billionaire family.
Is she really? I didn't know that.
The Dreyfuses.
Yeah.
Like
Dreyfus Affair.
Like Richard Dreyfuss?
Like the Shark Hunters.
Yeah.
Wow.
The the Dreyfus Affair.
Yeah, I know it.
No, she comes from a rich French family. The Louise, I think. The Louis part, not the Dreyfus.
I thought she came from the Julias, like Ronald Julia.
Like they use like the Roman style of.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
She's Julian.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure they all could have just.
I'm sure they all did pretty well, but maybe not like retire money because they were getting paid actors' salaries. Like Jerry and Larry David, they got the syndication producing money.
They're filthy rich. But George, you're saying you can't retire after like 3-4 seasons of making a few
I don't know, man.
$6,000, 6 figures an episode.
I don't know. Michael Richards, I bet he's not as well off as you think he is.
I guess kind of spun off the deep end a little bit.
He's had some problems. We were kind of dancing around it a little, but maybe we should talk about it. He had
just gonna acknowledge the elephant in the room.
He had an incident,
Mr. Kramer,
that I'm sure everyone remembers and knows about.
Yeah,
and he kind of hasn't come back at all.
Yeah,
he was not really around.
Yeah, he came back on Curb, and it was
a
really funny arc that played off of him using the N-word.
We should say that the whole season that Curb did that was a Seinfeld reunion season was excellent. And if you're a Seinfeld fan and you're not crazy about Curb, you should at least seek out that season. It was amazing.
It's a sequel to Seinfeld, basically.
Right. The finale ends with essentially a modern Seinfeld episode, or more modern.
And it's a spiritual sequel in that you're just getting the cast interacting with each other again.
Yeah, it was terrific.
And how many years after Seinfeld wrapped?
Ooh,
that was
at least 10. At least 10.
Nice.
Yeah,
because
I think it was about
Seinfeld
5 or 6 years ago.
Seinfeld ended almost 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
No!
Yeah.
Don't say it that
that's
way.
Horrible.
I remember the night of the finale, MTV aired Celebrity Deathmatch, where Seinfeld was. I forget who he was fighting, but it ended with George, Elaine, and Kramer killing him because he ended the show early, and they wanted to get paid more money.
That's what I was going to bring up. So you talked about disappearing for a little while. Jerry walked away from so much money because it was a huge hit, even in season 9, which ended up being the final season.
I think they offered him $1 million an episode if he stayed on.
Yeah. And he decided he wanted to go out because he thought the show was getting a little too wacky and kind of wasn't as good as it had been, which, we could argue about. Season 9, I think, is excellent, and I'm sure you agree.
Yeah.
But you got to respect what he did. He walked away because it was what he wanted to do.
And because he did that, even if you did get a couple of great episodes or even another great season out of it, Seinfeld is now this tiny little thing, this 9 seasons of just brilliance that is not tainted the way The Simpsons is by like 20 years.
Get out while it's hot.
Is The Simpsons not good anymore?
It's not very good. There's a podcast you should check out about it.
All right. Well, I hear they're on hiatus.
That's a great idea.
It's called Science Friday with Ira Flato.
Seinfeld needed 10 years to write B-movie.
That's true.
Yeah,
you can tell.
It was percolating around season 5 of Seinfeld. He's like, I can't wait for this to be over because I got an idea.
All those Ray Liotta-based jokes. It really took a while to make those.
I wonder if every time the writers, Seinfeld staff writers, came up with a B joke, he would cut it out of the script and save it.
He's got like
he had like a jar.
Jerry's beef file. It's just like,
Jerry's beef jar. Just a jar full of B jokes.
Oh my God.
So do you guys feel like it went out with a bang? Because I think I remember people having mixed feelings, which is pretty typical.
So are we talking about the finale specifically?
Finale, no.
Because
the rest of season 9 is brilliant.
Yeah.
They go to France or something, or
they're on their way to, maybe it was somewhere in Europe. They're like in a flight, and they have to land the plane in this small town that has a law.
They land early. They're still in New England.
Right. They land in New England, and there's a Good Samaritan law there, where if you see a crime and you can help and you don't, it's a crime.
Yeah.
And they get arrested because they watched I think it was a fat guy get beat up or something.
Yeah, it's that stand-up comic who just died recently.
Oh, did he?
Big guy, yeah.
Oh.
He looked very like cherubic. Like
Okay.
he had a young
Yeah.
face.
I have no idea who he is. I
say-
can't even
I wanna say
imagine
something
him.
with a P. I don't know.
Okay, with Big
You know,
P.
I speak ill of the dead, so I don't fucking care.
That's true. That's true. You do.
He's dead.
But anyway, so they get put on trial, and the show brings back a bunch of different characters from earlier episodes to kind of talk about
Right.
how horrible these people are.
Yep.
Which
John
is kind
Panette.
of. Oh, he died?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
had no idea.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Wow. All right, that's sad. Yeah. And look, there he is on Seinfeld.
Yep. That's
You're right. He was very cherubic. He will be missed.
Yeah,
Now that I
especially
know who
now.
he is, and now he's dead.
he's terrific now
Well, oh boy.
because
So,
he's dead.
so the finale was kind of maligned, I think. People didn't really like it, which is weird because they brought Larry David back. Larry David had left at the end of season 7. He wasn't a writer, wasn't a producer anymore, and he came back to write the finale. What do you guys think of the finale? Are you fans?
Well, we also should mention that nobody knew what the finale was going to be about.
Right, it was very top
it was
secret.
Yeah.
super buzzy because it was
Huge.
it was expected to be the highest rated show of all time. I don't maybe it beat MASH's ratings,
I think
but
MASH is still.
But
I'm gonna look it up.
they thought it was gonna. They were like, "This is gonna beat MASH. This is the biggest TV event of all time." They said the same thing about Cheers, which also had a weakish finale. But so people were like, a lot of people thought it was just gonna be, since it's a show about nothing, the finale would literally just be another Seinfeld episode.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing special about it. It's just like, and they're gonna be like anticlimactic on purpose. Other people thought Jerry and Elaine were gonna have to get married. You know,
Right.
would have like they would put a bow on it, and they
Yeah.
kind of did. They kind of like paid homage to that by doing the the NBC is going to make our Seinfeld pilot. We're going to be rich. That's why
Right.
they go to France, because they're celebrating.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this is a last episode that George and Jerry are about to become famous writers. So they started off like that, and then it becomes this, hey, let's bring back all the guest stars. The reason I think it's okay. The reason
Yeah.
I don't
It's
like it is
fine.
because the brilliance of Seinfeld is how quick the scenes are and how they the four plots interact with each other. And this
Yeah.
is a very straightforward plot. It was one A plot of them on trial with very slow scenes of, all right, here's this guest star, here's this guest star, here's this guest star.
Right.
It's not like any other Seinfeld episode in existence.
You're right. It's not, and it was almost too much like a clip show. And
Yep.
they had just aired a clip show right before. They did like an hour retrospective, and I
Yeah,
remember it ended with Green Day's "Time of Your Life,"
Yeah.
which is
was
about
like,
suicide.
yeah, that song was
Yeah.
everywhere. I'm sure that's a topic in there.
My high school graduation song.
Oh,
which
boy.
nobody knew what it was about. Yeah, I think that they really tried to button the series a little bit too much, and they would have been much better off to just go with another Seinfeld episode.
I completely
It's a show
agree.
about nothing ended, that way.
I will say I looked it up. It was the 4th most watched regular series finale in U.S. history. Do you guys want to guess what the 3 above it
All
are?
right, we know MASH.
MASH is
MASH.
one.
Let's take MASH out.
So MASH is out. What are the other
Friends.
Well,
is
no,
this
'cause
before?
Friends was
af-
after.
Is this,
Oh,
so this
after,
is
two?
before.
This is
before.
Yeah, they're all before.
Oh, and is this adjusting for inflation, or is this?
I don't know.
Are you telling me that there were
applies.
3 shows that had higher ratings than Seinfeld?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. The
Seinfeld-
series finales.
MASH had what, 74 million?
I think MASH was the biggest. Seinfeld had 76 million, which was 58% of all television viewers that night.
Which is never going to
That's
happen
a lot.
again because,
No,
again,
no, no,
kids
no.
don't watch
Never,
TV.
ever in a million
All right,
years.
so
is that
there's
gonna
3
happen.
shows that had more than 78 million people
Right,
watching.
MASH is one of them, so you got that one.
Show finales.
Show finales.
Roseanne.
Nope, not Roseanne. Although it was that weird season where they won the lottery, and then it turns out everyone...
And then then
Dan died. Yeah, but then it turned out he wasn't dead.
No,
Like,
he wasn't
it was
dead.
a dream.
Yeah. Ugh.
It was a weird...
It was terrible.
No,
Roseanne fell
you're,
apart at the
you're
end.
thinking about it wrong.
Am I thinking it backwards?
Yeah,
Or, no,
he
he
was
was
alive
dead.
the whole season.
Oh, and then he'd actually
You-
died, and the
tag
lottery
on-
season
yeah,
was a dream.
They tag on one line at the very
Right.
end, which is like, by the way, Dan's dead.
Right.
It's just like the Wonder Years where Fred goes. It ends with like the family hanging out and Fred what's his
Savage.
name? What? No, the other guy, Harry from Home Alone.
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern.
Yeah.
So he starts narrating as we watch Fred Savage and his family have this nice moment. He goes, "Dad died 6 months later." It's just like that.
Jeez.
It's like, all right.
I guess that's better than him being like, I died 6
Yeah.
months later. I've been a ghost all this time.
It's all a dream. We're all
Kevin
nicely
Arnold.
dead people.
And then it ends with Monster Mash.
That's how my Wonder Years finale would have went.
I'm guessing Wonder Years finale is in there.
Wonder Years was not
is
one of
one of
them.
the shows. Would everybody know your name?
Yes, they would.
So Cheers.
So Cheers was another
Okay.
one.
Yeah, so we got one more.
I don't know if you're going to get the other one. It makes sense if you
Really?
think about it.
Newhart.
Nope. Although that was a famous finale. That was the one where he wakes up and it was all a dream.
Yeah.
And it was the Bob Newhart show still.
Right.
Yeah.
Give us a decade. Well, I'm gonna give Mike one more guess.
So just finale before Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Right? Going back through the history of TV.
I'll give you the decade. It's the 60s.
All right, it's not Dallas.
It's not Dallas.
I Love Lucy?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's not Lucy. I'll give you guys one more guess because this is exhilarating podcasting.
Is it a big show?
It's a show you'll know. I don't think you're going to think of it as having like such a huge finale. Although it makes sense given what happened in the finale.
Ooh. And it's not... Oh! Wait, 60s?
60s.
Gilligan's Island is 70s,
It's
right?
not Gilligan's Island. That was the 70s.
I'm guessing that ending was pretty big.
It was not.
Lassie.
It's not a comedy. It's not Lassie. It's not a comedy. It was a show where you wanted to see how the story would resolve.
The Fugitive?
It was The Fugitive.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed at Seinfeld now.
Yeah.
This is changing
You
my
can't top The
perception.
Fugitive?
Yeah.
You can't talk... They should have just
It was a
ended
one-armed
with...
man.
with
That was it.
Kramer, like, escaping from a train in handcuffs and ankle cuffs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, The Fugitive. That's unbelievable.
Wow.
But I think this Seinfeld finale was a good idea on paper. I don't know that it worked so well as we were talking
Here's
about.
the-
Like
now,
I
you
feel
know
like
what?
I feel like they were very happy. Like, oh man, they've been so mean. Let's call them out on being mean and bring back everyone they were mean to. But in practice, I don't think it was such an enjoyable episode.
I wonder if they were bringing back the guest stars because the guest stars were a very famous part of the show. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
there's the guy, the Snapple guy, and there's the girl with the fake
Yep,
boobs,
the
and
soup
and,
Nazi
and when you,
and
yeah,
the-
soup
yeah.
Na- and you don't need to do that because the reason they're famous is we see them like once every 3 weeks in syndication,
Right.
So
Yeah.
we don't need to see another scene with them.
Right. It's also real fun to go back and watch old Seinfeld episodes and see people like, before they had their big breaks.
I
Like, there's-
said that 10 minutes ago.
No, you didn't. I'm going to talk about it now. Just the other day, I was watching
Like Anna
an
Gasteyer.
episode.
The example I used
No,
10
I
minutes
don't.
ago.
I don't think you said that. I would remember if you said that. There was one where Anna Gasteyer was on. No, I was watching one where Jerry was dating Lauren Graham. And
Yeah.
she's,
yeah.
a big-ish star now. Gilmore Girls and Parenthood and all that. And Anna Gunn was in another episode, dated Jerry. Was she from Breaking Bad?
She,
Oh,
she
yeah.
wasn't Donna
She's
Chang,
Skylar.
was she? No.
Wow,
She
I
might have
didn't
been
know
Donna
that.
Chang.
Skylar's in Seinfeld.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So you had Walt and Skylar.
You had Terry Hatcher.
You had Terry Hatcher,
Yep.
of course.
You had Daphne from Frasier.
Right.
The Virgin.
What's her name? Grace from Will and Grace.
Yeah, Deborah Messing. She
Deborah
was the, she was
Messing,
the
yes.
anti-Semite.
Right, yes.
Not to mention the blacks and the Jews.
This is my favorite freeze frame at the end of the Seinfeld when Jerry's just like, "Ugh."
Yeah, no, a lot
yeah, a lot
of them.
Well, because Jerry and George went through a lot of girlfriends over 9 seasons.
One of the season one episodes.
George an unbelievable amount to be quite fair.
Michael Chiklis is in season 1.
Is he? Is he
yeah,
the male unbonding guy?
No, that's Kevin Dunn.
Oh, right,
who's
right,
Alan
yes.
Veep.
Yeah.
No, Michael Chiklis plays they go to a party in his house in Long Island, and then he
Yes,
I
remember
crashes with Jerry, and Jerry can't get rid of him.
Right.
And I think this was pre-commish. I think this was like his first big role
Wow.
for Michael Chiklis, and
Definitely before the Fantastic Four.
I have a
that's for
lot
sure.
to say about Commish. I hope Commish is a topic one day.
I have nothing to say about Commish, so that'll be a fun episode.
The wife from Commish just died in real life.
Oh, John Panette was the wife in Commish.
She was in Raging Bull. She's the cook.
You fuck my wife?
You fuck my wife? No, she's the steak scene.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of theories that the Commish is actually a prequel to The Shield. Because,
Right.
Because if you watch it, we gotta talk about it. We'll gotta talk about another episode. But
Sure.
it's like it's a show that doesn't exist anymore on TV, where it's like a cop procedural, but it's really silly, and it's like using kiddie font and. Like he's
The
like
Commish was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really know much about
I
it.
almost want to look up. I watched the theme song because this actress just died. I watched it yesterday and I was like baffled at how like hokey it was. And this was a serious cop drama.
Yeah.
So this will
interesting.
hold up, and kids will watch this
Yeah, exactly.
because it's ironic.
It's going to replace B-movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the kids like,
That's-
yeah, did you watch the Commish?
That's why it sucks that Seinfeld is somewhat dated because it has so many things that could avoid that. Like it doesn't have a corny theme song,
Right,
Which
right.
most shows at the time did. There really weren't shows that just kind of got right to the chase. Like Murphy Brown and Seinfeld were pretty much the only two shows that did that at the time.
You're right. And Murphy Brown really has no legacy these days. Like
Yeah.
that's a show that is not,
Nobody
It's a
talks about it.
shame,
not being
yeah.
talked
It
about.
was
And that
like-
was a good show.
It not only was it great, but it was in the headlines constantly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Dan Quayle had a whole feud with the
with
character
Candace
Murphy
Bergen.
Brown.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
That was a time.
And yeah, you're right.
Kramer was on Murphy Brown.
Yeah, he was the secretary.
Yeah. So it's interesting to think about the legacy of Seinfeld. I'm curious to know what you guys think, but I think it's going to become like our generation's I Love Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just like, maybe I Love Lucy isn't on all the time now, although maybe one of those TV Land or whatever is now the old TV station, I'm sure, is playing a lot of I Love Lucy. And Seinfeld will always be on, and it's the kind of thing that you and I will watch well into our 70s.
Yeah.
If they don't already have it on TV Land, I feel like they've got
Seinfeld?
in another 2 years. But they've got like lots of 80s shows on there now, right?
Well,
we're olds now.
Nick at Night, if Nick at Night is even still a thing, we're showing how olds we are. I'm so old.
They need to move it to like Nick at 6 p.m.
Yeah, right.
At 6 p.m.
I just had dinner. Come on.
But Nick at Night now, and for a while, has been like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Home Improvements, like all of our shows, I would say.
I would say Seinfeld has a much bigger legacy than I Love Lucy.
Think so?
Well,
really?
I Love Lucy was just, a huge hit for its time because it was one of the only shows that was even on TV that knew how to be a good sitcom. So it just dominated. But its tropes haven't really seeded into society. Like, I have a feeling a lot of the way
that's so true.
I have a feeling a lot of the way we talk and use humor is like sarcasm is a very considered very 90s thing.
Right.
That's mostly because of
it's a real 90s thing, Jack.
Well, that's more Chandler Bing. But no, like that cynicism and that sarcasm that was like the lifeblood of Seinfeld is like a Generation X, Generation Y, millennial trait. Whereas I Love Lucy didn't really have traits because 50s TV, as good as it was still very, very disconnected from real life. Whereas Seinfeld was actually one of the, even though it's so wacky and silly, it was trying to be the most realistic sitcom on TV.
I guess.
Nobody in sitcoms would go answer the door and let people up. That was like, that was one of their things.
Oh, that's true.
I'll give you that Seinfeld's a little more realistic because in I Love Lucy, Lucy and Ricky had to sleep in separate beds because
they couldn't say the word pregnant.
Taboo,
Right.
There were a lot of problems, but I Love Lucy essentially invented the sitcom along with the Honeymooners.
Yeah, invented the sitcom, but it didn't do things that we're using in real life.
So are you saying you're not saying it's not a good show or an influential show?
No.
You're saying it's not going to stand up for the next 50 years.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying in terms of
what are you saying, Jack?
In terms of legacy, Seinfeld affects us in a day-to-day life, the way we communicate with each other.
But don't you think I Love Lucy had the same way for the generation before us?
Maybe they talked about it every day or whatever, but I don't think it affected the way they talk to each other.
You're not walking down the street seeing baby boomers go, I see it every damn day.
I do see a lot of them playing like the timpanis and stuff.
Babaloo!
I do see that, but I do live in Little Cuba. So.
That's right. My wife's Cuban. I'm allowed to sing the Babaloo. We're just like Lucy and Ricky. I guess I'm Lucy in this equation.
We can't say you're pregnant, though.
No, we cannot.
And you can't sleep in the same bed.
No, well, we don't for different reasons.
Maybe I'm personalizing this too much because along with The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live and Conan, maybe second only to The Simpsons, maybe more than The Simpsons, Seinfeld's sense of humor crafts the way I tell jokes. It crafts the way I just talk in real life because I'm a very dry person. I'm joking 90% of the time I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
I just can't help myself. And I would say that Seinfeld informs the way I am, and obviously I'm a comedian, so maybe this isn't for everybody. But I do think, like, at least in the broad general terms of like phrases like yada yada and Spongeworthy, stuff like that. But I really do think just the way people interact with each other, the way they would in those like apartment scenes.
I think you're right.
I think we copied that and mimicked that in a way that, besides singing Babaloo, people didn't mimic watching I Love Lucy.
Agreed. I think you're right.
That also might be a function of the fact that Seinfeld was just we were eating and drinking it all the time because it was on,
constantly.
Constantly I Love Lucy
on.
wasn't. It was they had reruns.
Well, I don't know. I did watch a lot of I Love Lucy growing up.
We did, but when it was on the air,
Yeah.
syndication wasn't a thing yet.
Right. Really quick, you were just mentioning like Simpsons, Seinfeld, SNL, big influences on you.
The three S's.
I just remember. So speaking of like the different S's,
It's the hiss.
The hiss is here.
So now that
top
makes sense.
billing.
Mike, you're a great
I brought
guy,
the
but
hiss.
you had to have. You obviously Seinfeld, Simpsons, and SNL is going to get top billing over you. See, it makes sense.
It makes sense. When you were listing them out like that, and I thought that they all started with S, and isn't that weird? It made me remember a very 90s thing, which was, I want to say in like 7th or 8th grade, I had a red JanSport backpack, and I vividly remember So they had like a leather bottom on the bottom, and people used to draw.
leather bottom.
on
Oh,
those.
yeah. Where was the leather bottom?
It was a leather bottom. But that's what they called it. Anyway, people used to draw on those
Oh,
and like
yeah.
write
Yeah.
things
I
on
hated
them.
that.
So I took mine one day and I just wrote The Simpsons, Seinfeld, South Park, and I just had it written on my backpack. And I was a huge nerd.
I was a huge
That's
nerd,
all I
and
have
then
to say.
I kept mine pristine because I thought
Right.
I
You
wanted to
didn't-
keep it pure.
I also think I wrote Green Day and Offspring on it.
Wow.
Those are the 5 things most important to
And now you
7th
have all
grade
those
Dan.
tattoos.
I do. Now I got it tattooed in my 7th grade handwriting
Yeah.
on my back.
on your bottom, on your leathery bottom.
on your
That's
leather bottom.
Damn right.
Oh, did you have any? What were the things like stenciled in on your school bag or?
I didn't have one with the leather bottom. I always wanted one with the leather bottom, and I
Oh,
never
man.
got one. Yeah,
I
had
ruined mine. If I can find it, you can
man.
have my old
Yeah,
Simpsons,
you gotta
South Park,
send it to me.
Seinfeld
Yeah.
one. Nice.
No, I was more in line with you. I didn't really draw on it, but it somehow got tattered. You know.
Yeah. Of course.
I remember like 7th grade. I was like, all right, I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna like be the cool kid. And I picked out this JanSport that was this huge purple one, and it was like the top of the line. It cost my mom $70. She's like, please don't make me buy this. And I was like, buy it. And I remember it had like a strap, like a seatbelt that you would strap in around your belly to give you back support.
Right.
And I was like, this is great. This is brilliant.
My
'Cause-
backpack now has
yeah,
that.
because my back hurts.
Yeah.
And I go the first day of school, and I go, and they go, what the fuck is that, you faggot? And I was like, I don't know.
Oh boy.
And then it
That's
also
how kids
had-
talk in the 90s, by the way.
Yep.
I'm using their words. And it had purple triangles on it. And they're like, that's gay. Purple triangles mean you're gay. And I was just like, Mom,
Pink triangle.
I don't want this anymore.
Well, the purple Teletubby was gay, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it was
yes.
coming from.
Allegedly.
Anyway, I did not want to wear that backpack, and my mom's like, "It was $70. You were wearing it until you're 40 years old."
And that's why you're still
That's why
wearing it
I'm-
right
That's why you
now.
I'm
have it
wearing
right now.
Right now, yeah.
Guys, we got like 14 seconds left. Do we have anything else we want to say about Seinfeld and or backpacks? Great show.
Could have been
Mike,
more backpacks in Seinfeld. Actually, I don't think that's anything they hit.
Wait, where's the
Yeah.
the lost episode, the backpack?
What's the deal with my backpack? It goes on your back. All right, that's it for this episode of 90s Percentile. Our timer is now up. And as we do at the end of every episode, Mike, I'm going to turn to you first. And I'm going to say, what have you learned today?
I learned a lot about I learned a lot. I learned that Seinfeld doesn't have as big of an impact in terms of
Yeah.
ratings as I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that it was number one.
Number
There you go.
4. Ooh.
Yeah, number
Why
four.
do you-
or
it
at
doesn't
least
even get
for
a
that,
bronze.
Do you think
Yeah.
Larry David's upset about that? I bet he is.
No, I bet he's
Yeah.
very
He's
happy.
laughing on his mountain of money next to
Yeah.
You're
Jerry.
right. You're very
Yeah.
right.
They're probably making out with each other,
Yeah.
just like putting $100 bills up their buttholes.
Buying $70 backpacks.
If you were a bajillionaire, you would put some money up your butthole, right?
I would put like
just to say you've done it.
I would put not $100 bill, but
I would probably do
if I
100.
could get my hands on
And
like
then
one
you
of those
spend
like
it. People will still
$1,000
take it.
bills.
Oh, yeah.
I'd put it up my butt. Yeah, for sure.
It's like that old Upright Citizens Brigade skit.
Ass pennies.
Yeah, where the guy would put pennies up his ass and
All
just
right.
circulate them.
What have you learned, Dan?
Boy, I've learned that if I'm rich, I'm apparently going to put money up my butt, which I didn't know until I started talking about it. No, I learned that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is apparently a wealthy billionaireess.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's news.
God,
What'd you learn, Jack?
I learned the name of the fat guy from the finale, but I forgot it again.
It's John Panette.
I keep thinking Penn Jillette.
No, Penn Jillette is alive, but is also a very large man.
No,
he
he's lost
weight.
a lot of weight. Yeah.
He lost weight, but I saw Penn and Teller last summer, and he's gained some of it back.
Well, we'll tweet at him and say you still got work to do. Dan was not impressed.
I was not impressed. The magic was not there. The show was great, but you know,
he can make a bullet disappear, but he can't make his love handles disappear.
that's exactly right. All right, so that's it for this episode of 90s Percentile. If you want more from us, We Studios, that's me and Jack. If you want to listen to our Simpsons podcast, you can go to weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com.
You'll have to listen to some reruns.
You'll listen to some old ones because we are currently on hiatus. If you're listening to this, at least in summer of 2016,
Yeah.
but
Actually,
we'll be back
some,
soon.
There'll be some deleted scenes.
There'll be
coming
some
out.
stuff coming out, and there's 85 episodes to choose from if you haven't listened to it. So go check those out.
My favorite episode, The Maid.
That's right. It was our third to last
We
episode.
had sex with the cleaning lady.
That's exactly
in the
what we
middle of
did.
the middle of the podcast.
It was some good
Stuck some
podcasting.
mini up her butt.
We also have some Sync Points episodes, which are premium movie commentary series. Those are $2 a piece, and you can also get those on wepodcast.com. And you can support the show while you're there. Click through the banners or just go to amazon.wepodcast.com. Shop like you normally would. We get a small cut. Keeps the show free. We like that. So,
And where can we find your stuff, Mike?
thespookedhorse.com, MikeDiazFilm.com.
All right. I'm guessing you do. I'm not guessing. I know you have a Twitter handle.
Yes, Mike Diaz Film and The Spooked Horse.
Follow 'em
Keeping
both.
it simple. Yeah,
Follow 'em
follow 'em both.
Dual Twitter.
Yeah.
All right.
How do you what's your Twitter client on your phone? Do you just use the Twitter app?
Usually, actually, I just moved over to Hootsuite.
Yeah, Dan's been trying to get me to move to something.
Yeah.
I use Dogcatcher on Android.
The Twitter, I just use Twitter app.
Oh, wait. Oh, I thought we were talking about podcasts. I use TweetDeck.
All right, tweet that was
TweetDeck,
it, yeah.
Yeah, I use that
I
on
went to
desktop.
download that, and it redirected me to Hootsuite for some
Oh,
reason.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't
I've
know.
been using the Twitter app because it's really good for switching between Twitter accounts,
Yes.
and now we have 3 total at
Yeah.
least that we use. But it has some other problems. I can never tell when Dan has already replied to somebody's tweet.
It's not great about that.
So
if we reply to you twice, that's why.
There's always some awkward replies.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked, because you have to.
But
Rick,
Jack, where are you on Twitter?
I'm besides at 90s Percentile
That's
and
true.
at Worst Episode Ever, or Worst Episode Pod.
Worst episode pod.
I was actually trying to put in Worst Episode Ever and our password,
Yeah.
and it wasn't working. I tried it like 10 times, and I was just. You ever have that moment where you just forget
Oh, yeah.
like what?
Absolutely.
And I was just like, what? Oh, Worst Episode Pod. And I was
Yeah.
just like, why is it? We should just.
I think
change
Worst
it.
Episode
We should change it to
I think
Louis
it was-
Studios.
Well, maybe we
What
will.
an old guy thing.
I'm such an old. But anyway,
Such an
I'm at
old.
Jackie No Breaks. I do not. I have a Snapchat. I don't know how to use it. I've been
I don't
trying,
even know what Snapchat
I've been
is.
trying like 5 minutes a day to work at it, and I can't.
You'll get there, Jack.
I stare at it, and I'm like touching things, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start a snap.
I'm at Then Dan Says. I tweet very infrequently. And if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend a damn thing, you don't like Amazon, I don't know what your deal is, but all you have to do then is go to iTunes and leave us a review.
Oh yeah.
Leave an honest review, which means 5 stars or more. 5 stars being the maximum. And you can leave a review, and it might get read on the podcast by one of our guests, as Mike is about to read one of our recent 5-star reviews. So I'm gonna turn this to you. If you could just read that review there.
Would you hate us if we asked you to read it as Constantine
Oh, not at all. Gladly.
All right.
from Constantine Keeps Bees?
So, by some random guy on here. That's the person.
All right.
Being a huge fan of this, being a huge fan of the Simpsons podcast worst episode ever, I was thrilled at the announcement of another podcast that make my commute and work a lot more bearable. The premise is they have a 1-hour timer, user suggested top. It's sounding a little Schwarzenegger.
A little bit.
User suggested topics and a random peak generator and talk about whatever 90s topic comes up. Their special brand of humor and nostalgia bring up a lot of great memories for a decade that was a big part of my formative years. And their special guests are actually enjoyable and flow with the show, unlike other podcasts where you can tell there's a noticeable gap in the rhythm every time they voice an opinion. I can't wait until my submissions get picked up by the random topic generator and we all find out what they think about my 90s discussion points.
Well done.
Well done, Constantine.
Check
Thank you for
out
that.
Constantine Keeps Bees.
Oh, yeah.
And I like that there was a little bit of a compliment to you in there about the
Yeah.
guests being great, even though you hadn't been a guest
Yeah,
when that
it's
review
kind
was
of like
posted.
he must have seen this
He
scene
must
into
have
the
known.
future.
He knew you were coming.
Yeah, no,
So
shout
he
out to
baked
all
a
of our
cake.
guests, because we've just been very lucky.
We got some good guests.
And we plan to have some good.
Maybe not Alex Placencia, but the rest of the guests were pretty good. All right, guys.
I liked Alex.
I know, I'm just kidding, and he's not listening, so it's fine. So that is it for this episode of 90s Percentile. My name is Dan.
My name is Jack, and we'll see you in another decade.